Hello and welcome to Author Chat. I'm Mark Causey. With me is Francesca Maria.
Hello.
We're from Black Cat Publishing, producers of The Black Cat Tales, an anthology of black cats. And with us is a couple of authors from the book. Francie, why don't you introduce our guests?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited to have you guys join us. I want to introduce Gregg Stewart. I'm going to read your bio, and I have to put my old lady glasses on to do so.
All right, let's do it.
Gregg Stewart is an HWA author, award-winning songwriter, musician, screenwriter, journalist, and film composer whose dark fiction tales have appeared in The Siren's Call, Crimson Quill Quarterly, Crystal Lake Publishing's Patreon Flash series, and the print anthologies Hotel Macabre Volume 1, Shallow Waters, Dead Letters, Tales of Epistolary Horror, that's hard to say, Slay House Presents, and To Hell and Back. He has recorded and published over 100 songs, toured the US and Europe countless times, and placed songs in a dozen films and TV series. His nonfiction book, Let It Out, Unlocking Creativity to Access Authentic Expression, reached number 7 for bestsellers in creativity. Congrats on that. You can find him on Blue Sky at Gregg Stewart, that's with 2 G's, on X at The Gregg Stewart, and Instagram at That Gregg Stewart. Welcome, Gregg.
Thanks so much.
Also with us, and also putting on my old man glasses, is Ben Kardos. Welcome, Ben. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Ben Kardos is a dark fiction writer, musician, and cat dad from Washington State. His stories have been published in various e-zines and anthologies published by the likes of Wicked Shadow Press, The Siren's Call, and Carnage House, among others. There I am. Some of his work is available on godless.com. He also hosts the YouTube channel Reading Monstrosities, dedicated to the review and discussion of transgressive and horror literature. This channel also features his podcast Talking Monstrosities, Conversations with Independent Horror Authors. Welcome, Ben.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Also with us is S.N. Smith. Welcome, Shay.
Hello.
S.S.N. Smith is a fiction and romantic comedy writer living in Eastern Washington with her wife and 3 dogs. She currently serves as a vehicle mechanic in the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She received her BA in Humanities and is currently pursuing a Master of Arts in Liberal Studies with a focus on literary arts. Her passion for writing started when she was a child, and her mother had her scribble down the long stories she told, even before she could write. In her free time, if she is not with her family, you can find a guitar in her hands, either jamming or making repairs. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We have a couple of musicians here. Got a drummer, songwriter, guitarist, singer. We can put a band together.
Yeah, we might as well start a Black Cat band.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
now there's an idea.
Now we're cooking with gas. So let's start with you, Gregg. Could you tell us a little bit about your awesome story, Little Black Kitten? Give us a little synopsis with no spoilers.
Sure. Oh, with no spoilers, right?
Yeah, I know.
Thought this through. So, Little Black Kitten is let's see. It takes place in the wintertime, close to Christmas time, and it is about a young woman who's like the lady of the manor after her parents have passed, and she's decided she's going to pay a visit to the dowager who lives kind of across the lane down the meadow, and so decides to travel through the snow on a horse to bring some baked goods, a little Christmas offering, but is hounded by there's just keep seeing black cats and wondering what they're doing and why they're all gravitating up towards the manor house. And when she arrives there, she can't find the dowager, but there is somebody there that she meets. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a kind of classic Gothic horror, I guess, is kind of that genre. Yeah.
And I loved how kind of cinematic. I mean, no surprise that you're a filmmaker as well, because it felt like I was reading a movie script.
Yeah.
You're so descriptive. I was right there with the Little Black Kitten, and it did feel it had like a, Frankenstein kind of gothic Victorian feel to it, which I loved.
Yeah, thank you. I've been reading kind of a bunch of that stuff and was inspired by it. This is one of the few stories I think that I'm a big fan of outlining because I was a songwriter first, and so anything longer than like two verses and a chorus, I need to like get my head around. So
Yeah.
I like outlining, but this is one of those few stories where I just started out where there was just an opening image, and I just inspired by some of the stuff I'd been reading and just the tone and the atmosphere of Gothic horror, and then I just wanted to explore it, and I just started writing. I'd recently come across I grew up in New Jersey, and I had come across a photograph I'd taken when I was maybe 13, 14 years old of a bird that hadn't flown south for the winter and literally froze on the branch and was hanging upside down.
Oh my God.
And that became, I just was thinking about, I came across the photograph, hadn't seen it in decades. And
Yeah.
so was thinking about that. And it just became the jumping off point for this story. And then it just kind of evolved from there. And then, yeah, my father had a black cat named Raven. So just kind of thinking about things from my past and just writing a little more stream of consciousness, and the story just evolved from there. But yeah, thanks.
I love hearing the inspiration, what the origin is of some of the stories that we tell. So that's great. So a frozen dead bird in New Jersey is what kind of kickstarted that.
It was, yeah.
It just proves you got a horror writer's mind. Like you take inspiration from all the things that you see in the world.
Yeah, it's true. You got
That's
to.
great. Go ahead.
Shade, your story, The Writer, one of the cool, interesting stories of the book. Tell us a little bit about that, again, without giving too much away to the reader.
Yeah, so my story is about an author who is in her house, in her apartment, writing, kind of in that frenzy that like most authors probably find themselves in when they just have an idea in their head and they just want to keep writing. And she's a published author, and her kind of drive is to continue to write, continue to publish. And the whole time she's in talking to her friend, the way that we kind of do. And then she gets a knock at the door, and it is one of her neighbors who is in love with her. And she maybe doesn't feel the same passion for her. And it kind of escalates from there. And we kind of figure out who her friend is and what is keeping her writing and keeping that drive alive, where she doesn't even feel like she can leave her house until the story is written, until the story is out of her head. So yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I'm stunned at how much you fit into a short story. Part of why I like short stories is to see what writers can really cram into something that's not a novel. And it has twists and turns and character development and I don't know, you've just really put a lot of greatness into this little story, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I kind of took inspiration from just myself. I tend to have a story in my head, and that's it. That's all I can think about. Like, one of the things I enjoy about being a mechanic is I know what I'm doing, so I don't really have to think about my job too much. So I'm constantly thinking about writing. I'm constantly
Nice.
thinking about what the next story is. And oftentimes you can like find me like typing on my phone, like sending myself an email about ideas that I have. And then when I get home, my dog Theo, he's my oldest dog, and he's like my best friend. And so I find myself talking to him. So that's kind of the inspiration for my story. Is that's kind of how I feel all the time, where it's like I'll sit down for a weekend and I'm like, I'm just gonna write for an hour and I'm good to go. And then we can go out. I tell my wife we can go out, and then the next thing I know, it's 5 hours have passed. I've already written 10,000 words, and I'm like, oh no, my whole day's gone. Yeah.
We're all laughing because we all know what that feeling is like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more minute, dear. I'll be right there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I loved your story. It had a very, without spoiling it, very Stephen King, a specific book I'm thinking of, which I won't say because it might be too spoilery.
Okay.
But also a writer is a key person in the story, and mayhem happens.
Yes, yes. I'm surprisingly, I wasn't a huge horror fan growing up. I started to slowly get into the genre. I read a lot of like fantasy and comedy, and then one day I picked up uh, John dies at the end of the book. I don't know if you guys know that. And I don't know, something clicked in my head where I was like, I like horror and I want to write horror. So
Yes.
it kind of blossomed from there. And I don't consider myself like the greatest horror writer or anything like that, but I do try to push myself in every genre and just try to get something out there that I hope people can connect with. So
Well, people will definitely connect with your story.
Mhm.
100%. I can't wait for people to read it.
yes, I'm excited. Thank you.
Um, Ben, sir, we need to talk.
Agents of Satan.
Agents of
Uh-oh.
Satan.
One of the darkest stories in the book, and we love
I
it.
Oh,
loved it. Yeah, and there's a reason why we wanted to kind of wrap up the whole collection with your story because it kind of epitomizes all the things we were looking for when we did the submission call.
Hmm.
It's dark, it's
okay.
creepy, it's historical, there's some lessons in there for people that want to read between the lines.
Mhm.
And the bad people get their comeuppance at the end, which is always fun.
Which is always fun.
Well, yeah, if you read the story, yeah, it's something happens with it. Some dark irony, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah. Can
Yeah.
you give us a little bit of a synopsis without spoiling it?
Uh, well, the easiest way to, I guess, give a synopsis is by talking a little bit about the history behind the story.
Yeah,
So, Agents of Satan, it is very, very loosely based on history. It's probably about 5% history, 95% made up. So it's historical in the same way, say, Xena the Warrior Princess is historical, which is not
right.
at all. But it is based on a actual 13th century pope who, according to the history, perpetuated the superstition against black cats. In fact, he even wrote a document called, I think it's called Vox and Rama, which described a satanic ritual that included a statue of a black cat coming to life. So that was kind of the jumping off point for creating this little kind of dark little story where he, in effect, declares war on cats. And it was probably the hardest thing to write about that story for me was like I'm the kind of writer that when I'm writing horror, I can do pretty much anything to human beings and not feel anything.
Yeah,
But trigger warning for people, there is a bit of animal cruelty
yeah,
in this story, so that was hard for me to write.
yeah.
But it really did, I think, emphasize um, just what this Pope character I was writing was trying to do, which was eliminate what he saw as agents of Satan. And you end up seeing, when you read the story, you end up seeing a dark irony toward the end there.
Hmm. How much kind of research did you do going into this story? Because I did some research after reading your story, and you're pretty accurate for like the first
There,
good quarter of that book of that story.
I did some Wikipedia. I was on Wikipedia looking up stuff, and yeah, I tried to keep the historical parts historical,
Yeah,
but there are, I played kind of fast and loose with the history bit, and obviously when we get into the last part of the story, it's obviously made up, some supernatural stuff there. But yeah, I did some Wikipedia research to get the dates right.
great.
It's just one of my favorite kind of aspects of horror is where it just becomes heavier and heavier, and you just sort of become kind of, the pressure just builds and gets, I don't know. So as your story goes and goes, you just feel it. You start feeling it in your shoulders, and I don't know, that just makes for great reading. I like to say I like that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So quick show of hands, anyone have a black cat currently in their lives?
I got a black and white cat.
That counts.
She's sitting right over here.
That counts.
I got a black and white as well, a little tuxedo. Yeah.
Tuxedo. We've got a tuxedo and a black cat as
Mhm.
well. And I know Shay, you said you've got some dogs.
Yes, I had a black cat a few years ago. His name was Booker. Unfortunately, he lost the battle with the snake, which was
Oh
probably one of the
no,
saddest moments in my life. Yeah.
I'm so
Um,
sorry.
yeah, and then we moved to Germany and we had already had all our dogs and we couldn't get a cat. So, but now we're back in the States and that's the plan. We just got our new house. So the plan is to go get a cat because I feel a little light without a cat in my life. So
And it's good to get black cats because they're usually the ones left at shelters. They're not
yeah.
the ones that are usually picked up because of superstitious beliefs and cultural background stuff. So if you want to get a cat, check out some Black Cats.
Yeah, definitely. I love black cats. Booker was all black. He had just a little tiny patch of white on his chest.
Aw.
And so that's definitely what I'm gonna go for again, because they're always so sleek, and I don't know, they hold like a certain connotation to me, and I love black cats. So
They really do seem to be wiser than some of my other cats. They seem to like have a more spiritual awareness, like they see things that we don't see, they know things we don't know. They really are another level of mysterious. The specific black cats, not tabbies, not the orange ones,
yeah.
just the black cats. Do you guys agree, or you think I'm making
No,
stuff up?
nope, I totally get this. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Very possible.
Something else
Yes.
a little bit connected somehow. Black cats, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
true.
maybe it's something that we project on them, our own perceptions of what black cats should be. Who
Yeah,
knows?
probably. Yeah, a little. It's probably a little bit of us being like, well, they're supposed to be mysterious, and so they become mysterious.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Ben, tell us about the cat in your life.
Cat in my life. Well, I actually have two cats, Micah and Tip Tip. And Tip Tip Tipsy, she's the tuxedo, the black and white cat. And Micah, she's a little gray cat with a big attitude.
Yes.
And they yeah, they're the babies. They're the children, and
Yeah.
we just like having them around. Of my wife and I, we've always had cats in some way in our life, and just total cat people. Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Hmm.
Greg, how about your tuxedo? We have a
Yeah.
tuxedo.
Yeah, so this is kind of still considered a recent development. So yeah, Agatha Schmutzy is a tuxedo with a little, she's got a little black schmutz on her face. So she's so Schmutz, she showed up in this past August in just hot weather on our front doorstep, and we gave her water, and then she never left. So
Aw.
she kind of she pretty much adopted us.
That's how that
But
works.
slowly but surely, she worked her way from the front porch to inside the house to in the bedroom to on the bed, and she's taken over pretty much. But all she does is sleep and want her belly rubbed. That's just kind of her whole vibe is just I want to sleep or I come around. She comes around asking for a belly rub. So that's it. She's super docile and really good natured. And the truth is between all of us, my wife has never liked a cat in her life, not a single one. Yeah, she's like, I wake up in the morning and she's like cuddle the cat's like right here, like on the
Oh.
pillow with her, and like it's the sweetest thing ever. She's like, we leave the house and like 3 minutes later, like we're going out to dinner to meet friends. Literally, I can almost count it like 3 minutes, and she's like, "You think Schmutz is okay? You think she's okay?" We left her all alone. It's like, yeah, she's so worried about her all the time. It's really adorable. So she's very sweet. She's slotted right into our family, right into our lives, and yeah, basically adopted us. But we adore her, and she's very sweet. She's sleeping right now. At any moment, she could come in here meowing and want to be in my lap, though.
Yeah.
So she may make an appearance. But midday and with the heat today, I think she's going to be out cold most of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to time this interview while ours are asleep because otherwise,
No.
yeah,
Be all over,
it's
right?
this constant
Gray
serenade
cat
for
tail.
food and those belly rubs and everything else.
That's right. That's right.
They definitely adopt us. Getting back to the book, to the stories, I like to ask everyone about their writing process. Every writer has a different way that they do things, the way they approach writing. Like you said, Greg, you like to outline, and others like to just write as they go. Some writers have their favorite snack; they have to have Skittles. Tell us a little bit about your writing process, Ben. Why don't we start with you? Uh, what uh, what's
Writing
your writing
process.
process like?
Uh, well, let's see. My writing process is a bit erratic. Sometimes I'm a pantser, sometimes I'm a plotter. I've always liked the idea of being a pantser, just writing as you go along. But I've always found that I kind of get lost sometimes doing that. So I always like to have an ending in mind. So even if I'm kind of pantsing my way toward the ending, at least I know where I'm going.
Mhm.
But usually, like with Agents of Satan, that was a plotter. I plotted that one out. I knew exactly where I wanted to go with that one, especially once I understood the history behind what I was trying to write. But no, overall, it just kind of depends on the story. I draw a lot from real life, and sometimes I'll find something in my own life and, just kind of concoct some imaginative scenario to go along with something that really happens and try to create some kind of ironic twist that I think would make an interesting story and just put them together. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the stuff that works is apparently the stuff that gets published, and the stuff that doesn't work usually doesn't. But yeah, so it varies is basically what I'm saying.
Mhm.
That's great.
There's a little bit of freedom in that, I would guess. Just sort of waiting for the inspiration and working it out however it works out.
A lot of that, yeah, a lot of waiting for the inspiration. But just for the practice, even if I'm not like actually writing a story, I'm usually doing some journaling or I'm writing some free verse poetry, just something to keep the words happening,
Hmm.
just to just keep the exercise of actually writing happening. So that way, when the actual substance starts spilling out of my brain, then I'll be ready for it. I have that practice, and just it's kind of like doing weights, I guess. You just keep the
Yeah.
consistency, I guess. So
You
yeah.
keep flexing that muscle. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Shay, how about yourself? What's your writing process like?
I'm definitely a fly by the seat of your pants. Like, I sit down, I have a small idea. It usually is like, here's like a prompt or something like that, and I will talk to my wife for like 5 minutes about it. I'll be like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And she's such an avid reader that her opinion just like means the world to me. So she'll be like, that sounds like a good idea, or no, maybe not that. And so once I have it talked out with her, which is kind of what I do, is just talk everything out with her, I'll sit down and then it'll just come out of me. It literally feels like I just birth it out of me. And there's like hardly any pause. There's hardly anything. So especially with my short stories, I tend to be able to get them out in just one go, and then I'll step away from it and I won't look at it for like a day or two because I don't want it to keep going and milling it around in my head. And then I'll come back, and that's when I start doing my edits and I start cleaning it up. But yeah, I don't like outlining because I feel like I get lost in my own outline, and my outline just ends up being the story anyways. I always sit down and I'm like, I'm gonna write an outline, and then I just end up writing the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always me on my couch. I usually have some water with me. I'm obsessed with Mike and Ike's, so I usually have like some Mike and Ike's with me, and I sit down and I just go, and when it comes out, it comes out. And sometimes nothing comes out. Sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I guess nothing today. But most of the time it just comes all the way out, and once it's done, it's done. And then the wife gets a read, and if she gives me the thumbs up, then I'm like, great, this is it. This is the story. So,
Awesome. I love it.
I knew at least one of you was going to have a specific candy. I knew at least one of you was going to give me a specific candy reference. I've met a few writers.
yeah, Mike and Ike's tend to be my thing. So it's always the blue box, the blue tropical Mike and Ike's. Those are like
Ooh,
specifically my candy.
There
nice.
you go. Greg, how about yourself?
Well, I don't have a candy. I don't. Sometimes I forget even bringing water with me to the gig. So
Yeah.
I just go when I start going, and I realize I haven't had any water in the last 3 hours. So yeah, um, I like, as I mentioned earlier, I like to outline, but I don't outline. I don't go too crazy with outlining. It's kind of like, how when you need to get from point A to point B across the city, like I want to know my destination and I want to be aware of at least a couple landmarks along the way,
Mhm.
and then give myself bandwidth to just kind of explore side, roads and, wherever I want to go. Um, but yeah, this story was short. Sometimes with short stories, every now and again now I can pants my way through it. I can just let myself write kind of free form, and it's really fun to do that. But typically I tend to feel more comfortable when I kind of know where I'm headed at least. Um, and then I don't know. I think it's interesting for me, like with the writing process. Like I just want to I just want to just get into the slipstream of it and kind of see where it might take me. So there's a piece of me that needs to know, and there's a piece of me that also doesn't want to know too much because I want to find out as I go. So
Yeah.
it's this little balancing act I try to do with myself, and I try to write every day. I think I'm totally with Ben with this kind of, I do see it a little bit like going to the gym, like you want to just keep that muscle going. And some days I sit down and, at the end of an hour or two, the result is I've rewritten 3 sentences. That's all I've gotten done. And some days I've written 3,000 words. And so, so I don't really have any goal. It's just the game is just to show up for myself, just to be committed and show up for myself in that creative expression, whatever it decides to look like that day. I want to just, bless it, thank it, whatever muse is coming through me, or just that I got to be creative that day. It is a gift and a privilege, I find, that we get to be creative at all, because there's a lot of other needs that need to be met before you can get to the place where you can be creative. And so it really is a privilege that we get to write and create and express ourselves. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful that I can pour my creativity into stories and things like that. So yeah. So
Show up for myself. I like that.
Yeah.
Show up for myself.
Beautifully said.
That's a good mantra.
That's great.
Thanks.
So what do you guys have cooking? What's next that we can keep an eye out for? Gregg, you want to start?
So I have a couple things going on. I think I mentioned just before we kind of got on the call. I've been working for it feels like there's projects that have been going for at least 1 or 2 years that are suddenly all coming to fruition over the next 2 months, which is really exciting. So I gave a TED talk a few months ago, and that was really fun to do.
Amazing.
And everyone else's from that day went live except for mine, and we thought like, oh, is your talk flagged? What happened? And then they wrote to say it's an editor's pick. So we're super grateful that they want to put it into their whole publishing schedule, and really excited. And it's all about creativity and the stuff that no one can shut me up about anyway. So it was perfect. I did a TED talk on it, and yeah, really fun. So I got a TED talk coming out. That's an editor's pick, which is really exciting, and super grateful for the opportunity. And then I've got a YA novella coming out, the first in a trilogy, with Graveside Press, called Kim Reaper. So that's really fun. That comes out at the end of May. So that's exciting. And then also, my wife and I co-wrote a Western, like a classic Western, but a female-driven Western, which hasn't been seen all that often. And last month we got a director attached, and it looks like we have a producer attached. And I can tell you from firsthand, like, the film industry is the most fickle industry you will ever encounter. So this could all kind of go the way of the dodo any minute. But I'm so grateful, and I love that it's been actually feeling this particular one has just been flowing along effortlessly. People have just been reading it, getting excited about it, and wanting to come on board to make it happen. So that's exciting. So a film and a book and a TED talk, and then I've got some music finally coming out too. I've got this side project I've been threatening to do for a couple of years, and I'm finally putting some stuff out. A band called Cannibal Bird, and it's basically all it's like very traditional, kind of like almost like bluegrass and blues music, but what would it sound like if it was 200 years in the dystopian future? So it's no traditional instruments, it's all found sounds and techno EDM kind of drum loops.
Oh my God.
I just wanted to make music striving for something I feel like I hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we hit that, but that was what we were going for. It kind of has a little bit Black Keys meets Nine Inch Nails meets Muddy Waters. I don't know. It's fun though. We're having a good time with it, but putting some music out too. And it's just cool I'm so grateful just to be creative on so many fronts right now and have stuff coming out. So anyway, that's what's going on. It's a lot.
Fantastic. Congratulations on all that.
Super cool.
Thank you.
Slacker.
Yeah, slacker.
How about you, Ben? What you got going on?
So, what do I have going on? I did recently have one of my, an extreme horror story published in another anthology, put out by Carnage House, the Best of Carnage House Year 1.
Great.
So they put one of my stories in there. So that was kind of exciting. So I got a story in another anthology out there. Other than that, I'm pecking away at a novel that I've been working on for a while, kind of a transgressive extreme horror novel. It's kind of my baby. Who knows if it'll ever see the light of day. One of these days I might have the courage to put it out there. But other than that, I'm also starting to make more videos for my YouTube channel, Reading Monstrosities. I do book reviews. Sometimes I put my own stories on there. Sometimes a little bit of music, but basically me talking about books in my backyard. So if anyone wants to check it out, I'm gonna be doing some more videos for that too in the near future.
Amazing. And
Awesome.
is that off your website? How do people find that?
Uh, that's just YouTube. You can look up Reading Monstrosities. You'll see my name, Ben Kardos, Benjamin Kardos, and yeah, you can just find me on there. And like I said, it's pretty informal. It's me chatting about books, just what I'm reading or what I'm working on. So it's just a fun little project.
That's great.
Super cool.
Awesome.
Fun is what it's all about.
That's right.
Well, yeah.
Shay, after people read The Writer, where can they find your next awesome project?
So right now, I wrote a story a few years ago, and I published it, and it was a fan fiction because that's kind of how I got myself out there. Because for a long time, I didn't really have the confidence as a writer. I was writing all the time, but I didn't really have the confidence to put myself out there. And finally, I kind of got it. And so I started writing fan fiction a long time ago, and I wrote one that just jumped off the page, and everybody loved it, and everybody encouraged me to try to publish it as a traditional novel. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now, is getting that cleaned up and getting it out there and trying to get it published as a traditional novel. So that's my hope. But I have a very busy life. I changed my job. So I'm no longer a mechanic. I am now officially a recruiter. I
Wow.
moved I moved from Washington to middle of nowhere, Michigan. So I now live in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So I picked up my whole family and I moved myself all the way over, and I have a brand new job that I'm learning. So I'm slowly going, and slowly every day I'm trying to get another chapter edited so that I can start pushing it out. And I've got a few stuff going for short stories and stuff for different anthologies and things like that. Hopefully the next thing that you'll see from me is my novel fully published and gone out there. Even if I have to publish myself, I'm going to publish it. So yeah, I this story was my first story ever being published. So it took a lot of courage for me to even submit something. And whenever I got chosen, I like I felt I like almost started to cry because I was like, I was
Yeah,
chosen.
that's
So
right. I think we've all felt that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yes. So I like you guys publishing my story just gave me so much more confidence. And
Aw.
especially as me as a writer, I'm like, you know what, maybe I can do this, and maybe this is something that I need to go for. So I'm kind of starting my journey technically, and hopefully at the end of it you'll see a full novel from me.
Amazing.
Well, we're really excited to be part of that. We loved your story, and we're very happy to
And all of
publish
your
it,
stories.
and really excited that, like I say, we can get that next chapter kicked off for you.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you guys so much.
Well, I think that's all we have time for.
Yes, it is. We could go on. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for
Thank you
joining us.
guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Thank you. It's been great.
Yeah.
Until next time, meow.